This video is directed at you personally, Tony, and I hope you'll understand by the end of it why I wanted to talk to you directly. I look at your story and it's as if there's only part of the story there. It's as if there's a man running through the street, you know, like on the advert, and you think he's done something terrible and he's running away, and then when the camera pans back, he's actually part of a massive race with lots of people, which is why he looks so stressed. Because we're only seeing part of your story, and it's that part that worries me. But I know your story, I understand quite a bit about it, because I was like you. I didn't speak for nearly 6 months, and I didn't move anything for about 18 months longer. And I had a 2-year-old child. I had a career as a dramatist, so I was very physically able, and part of my work was to use my body. So I understand that sense of loss. But what I also understand is something that you have to do. It's a sort of Buddhist thing, if you like. You have to accept that nothing for anybody stays the same. And you also have to try and imagine yourself in another life. And you don't sound like you can, or you have. And I'm really sad to hear that you go out once a year to the dentist. Do you know there are people in the same situation as you who go out quite regularly and lead all sorts of interesting lives, and you won't talk to people that come to your house? You won't listen and you won't talk to them in another way. So you haven't been able to imagine yourself as this person. It sounds like you're mourning the loss of your life before, to the extent that it's that's killing you. And the question is, what is it about being alive that's so important you're prepared to die for it? You need to find how to be alive. You know, tragedy, if you want to call our lives it. And today I see in the paper the Telegraph poll, should people who are disabled and unable to kill themselves be allowed to die? Well, thanks for including me in that. I'm not able to kill myself. I'm not able to do lots of things, cut food up, do all sorts of personal things. And what you're managing to do is, by what you're saying, you're managing to paint my life as a tragedy and as useless and sad. You described your existence as dull, miserable, demeaning, undignified and intolerable. Demeaning, undignified and intolerable. So that means my life's undignified and demeaning, because we probably have very similar needs. Regarding the going for a necessity through the judiciary to be allowed to die and use a doctor, you describe it as 20th century medicine, was it, with 19th century attitudes. It's completely the other way around. In the 19th century, people just died because their lives weren't valued. Now we're trying to value all sorts of people's lives. So we want 21st century thinking about disability, not 19th century or 20th century, 19th century thinking. I think there's an element where you just don't feel alive. You don't feel you're contributing anything. you can have no idea of how much you're going to contribute by this decision. For instance, the question in the Daily Telegraph: should doctors be permitted to assist those who want to end their life but are physically unable? Well, that includes me. So already I'm on the caravan, I'm part of the trail of people. How can it be okay for me just to be included in that roll call of people? So you think you're not doing anything, but sadly, Tony, you're doing a hell of a lot. Some people would say you're doing an awful lot of damage, but you're actually, because you're alive, you're actually doing a lot. You're actually trying to make a big contribution. But the strange thing is, you don't want to die now. Like Debbie Purdy, you don't want to die now. So when is the right time? When I found out that it was obvious I was never going to have my life back, when you realised you weren't going to be able to speak, when friends of mine realised that they'd lost their jobs, they'd lost their homes, we lost our jobs, we lost our homes, we didn't lose our dogs. I do worry about what's gone on in your life, and it strikes me that you've suffered from social work syndrome. When I came home, it was suggested to me that I went to a day centre and my son could be either taken to a carer for the day or fostered, and this was the view of my world that people had. I didn't know this world. I knew one thing for sure: I'd been separated from my son for well over a year. Yes, I was away in a hospital for well over a year. He didn't know who I was, really. So nobody was going to separate me from him again. But I wonder whether you've somehow played the social work game. They advise you to do this, that and the other, and you don't know any different, so you do it. It's very understandable. But sad for a man of your intelligence. If we allow this common law necessity to die, I would ask you to imagine what that's going to look like. They're going to pop round to Debbie Purdy every week and say, is it this week? Are they going to come round to you and say, is it now? So you're going to constantly live with the poison, the pill at the end of the bed. So you're actually going to make your life so much worse. And I would ask the question, same as I'd ask for Debbie Purdy, if your life is so intolerable, what are you waiting for? I know what you're waiting for. You're waiting for the sense that you are alive to end. It doesn't. It doesn't end, because even though you're depressed and you sound more depressed than anything, depression is actually about being alive. So we get these doctors, do we, who are given permission to, as your wife says, kill people. And I'd say to her, is she going to stand at the end of the bed while they get rid of you? What about children who are injured or have are suffering, or whatever you want to call it, in the same way? These doctors going to come to their parents and say, well, we can stop this now before it gets any worse. We'll just nip down on Friday, that's when we do them. Because the other thing is, and I think it's really important, something about this country, whenever we get a pill or a bit of medical equipment in somewhere or other, and yeah, okay, loads of it's really useful, but whenever we get something like that, we really want to use it. You know, you've only got to be 2 minutes pregnant and you're in there having your scan. Whether whether you really thought about it and wanted or not, you've only got to go to give birth and you're all strapped up and there's things inside you to monitor the baby's head. Mostly completely unnecessary. if there's a new pill on the market and it's cheap, the doctors are handing it out left, right and centre. If somebody qualifies in a new area, and we all want that, we're a people, a country that like to make use of what's around. So, who are going to be the euthanisers? Is it going to be a local doctor, takes Thursdays off to go and get rid of a few people? Is it going to be somebody in a hospital? Because we'd have to have a special room. And we'll, you know, because we would want that, and we'll devise a special psychology for it. And then it'll be on offer to everybody, because that's what we're like. And that's the road you're taking us down. So, I'm going to ask you to do me the honour of taking something from you because you're alive. I'm going to ask you to do me the honour of not crossing the Rubicon and let me live. And let other people like me live without the threat that you, because you are alive, without the threat that you're placing on me. Remember, when you cast the die, you have no control over it. That's what it means. It's unfathomable. That's what it meant, that the die was cast, that it was unstoppable. Well, I'm asking you to stop. And I'm also asking you to leave the house. Yes, I woke up today and felt possibly a bit like you. Don't feel like this. Went across the field later on after a bit of persuasion, and the dog went absolutely crazy, and I had a very nice half hour. Get yourself a dog, have some nice hours, and ask yourself, what is it about being alive that's so important to me? I'm prepared to die for it. Not what you had. Imagine what you've got and who you are now with the greatest of respect. Because I know who I am. You can find you. Thank you, Tony.